Alright, I hope you guys are doing well. Wanted to do a quick little update here on Boeing. So I made a video about a week ago on Boeing, basically showing this nice little upward trend that we had and how you could potentially play one of these little dips off this support line here to the upside with hopes of breaking the $340 mark to the upside. And towards late of last week, we actually broke down below this trend line, and it was basically the first sign that we were moving lower. So I can go ahead and move that in a little bit tighter, and you can actually see where we had that break. So you can see we tapped it here. Was really the last nice little hurrah that Boeing had, and that being last Tuesday. Saw a nice little bounce, a dip down below 329, then it bounced up to 335. So I think it was about a 2%, yeah, about a 2% little rally there. But you can see it just fizzled out over the day. The days after the day following, it traded back down to that line. And then as we moved in towards Thursday, we kind of bounced back up, but then Friday sold back down through it. And then you can see as we opened up today, Tuesday, that we tried to make a run back up to 325, as that now being a resistance once we broke through it last Friday. And we really just couldn't hold. And then we had this really big sell-off leading to Boeing being down over 3%, and at one point we were down about 5% here on Boeing, and that was coming from the news that the 737 MAX is going to be delayed even farther back into June and July is what they are now scheduling. And you can really see this when we look at the 1 minute time frame. You can see we were kind of trading long. This is where we hit that 325 resistance. And then we kind of we're just really just sitting right in here around 322. And then we had the news come out right here. Pretty obvious. We saw a quick spike down, and that was roughly about a 5% decline, 4 3/4. And then we did see a nice little rally back up. Usually when you see these quick dumps, you do see a nice little kickback rally to the upside, but it normally never really comes back up to the initial level it started at. In this case, we went about halfway back up and then kind of fizzled out here in the after hour stages. But let's go ahead and look at where we could potentially see Boeing moving forward, as we do have earnings coming up next Wednesday, which I think will really start to point out what direction Boeing is holding. Now, if you did see my last video on Boeing, I did talk about this 200-day moving average being of significance, as we have not traded below it for a great length of time. If we move out to the 20-year weekly, we can see the last time that we really traded below it was back here in 2016. So, a good 3.5 years ago. And, now we have cracked back below it. And really, Boeing is in just a really tough spot at the moment. We are now nearing pretty much like the last support here around $300. You can see we got close today around 305. And we had that nice little kickback, but depending really on earnings coming up, that could help to swing Boeing to the upside, but it could lead to a further deterioration. And if it does, I would be looking somewhere down here around 260. You can see we had a little bit of trading going on right in there. We also have 240 as a marker, and again, this is dating back to August and October of 2017. So it was a good chunk of time ago. Again, looking at the long-term time frames, these can still hold as supports potentially, and we could make new supports if we come down, say we dip down to 280 and maybe find support before rebounding back up. I just want to clarify these, as they could be potential supports if we do break down below 300 and head down to these levels. But again, big move here on the technicals as far as breaking down below the 200-day on the weekly time frame. And really our next support is going to be down here at 300. The next real solid support is going to be down here at 300. So until we hit that level, I wouldn't necessarily consider Boeing to be a buy, even though at the moment I do think that it is still very shaky and it's a pretty risky trade if you do want to put it on. But again, if you see something that maybe strikes your fancy and you want to go for it, go for it. Just make sure that you have a plan in place. I actually did trade Boeing based off of this little upward trend that I saw on the bounce. I ended up getting out for a very small profit, having a stop loss put in. I actually was taken out on Friday as we were really just starting to squeeze that line. And I'm glad I did. If I did not have that stop loss in place and I was continuing to hold, I could have ended up down, well over 4 or 5% at this point. So just something to keep in mind. Now, if we do go to the upside, what are our resistances going to be? I do think that this 200-day moving average could be a pretty strong resistance. Obviously, the level that we just broke through at 325 is going to be a resistance, so right around in here. And then also the 320 mark, which was basically the bottom or the start of this upward trend. You can call it anywhere from like 320 to 322 is what I would classify as being the other resistance. So we'll put that right in here around 322. And then here's our 325, 326 mark, and then here's our 340 mark are the big ones. So again, earnings can really swing this to the upside if it does show some good earnings, or say the earnings call is relatively positive. But we'll just kind of have to see how it goes from there. So hopefully you guys gained some insight from this video, maybe learned something new, or saw something that you did not see before in the charts. Either way, leave me a comment if you found it helpful or how I can make these videos better. And thank you guys for watching.